When you're trying to solve this one, what I would do is first pick which point you're actually trying to figure out. So here, let's say that we're going after the C. It doesn't really matter. You can use whichever one you want. But let's start by going after C. So what I need to do is figure out which equations that actually relates to. So in this case, this 1.25x minus 2y equals 7.5, that's for this line here, right? So I'll call that 1, for example. Doesn't matter. The next one, I'll call this one 2, and it belongs with this line here, and 3 is that line there. I'm just going to label them so that it's easy for me to think through and to talk about which one is which. Okay? So when I look at, for example, C here, the thing that I'm going to try to find is where does line number 1 cross line number 2? So what I should be doing in my head at least is thinking, okay, I've got line 1, I've got line 2, I want to figure out where these things cross. So if I want to put them in my calculator to solve this, I need to put them in which form? Yeah, well, I need to get y by itself, right? So that I can put it in that y equals thing. So let's say that I do equation number 1 here. And if I just kind of do that off to the side, for equation 1, I had 1.25x minus 2y equals 7.5. Okay? Oh, thank you. Okay. And to get y by itself, all you're going to do is subtract the negative 1 or the 1.25x. So you'd get negative 2y equals negative 1.25x plus 7.5. Okay. Now to get the y by itself, just divide by the negative 2 into each term. Okay. So you'll end up with y equals, and if you want, you could type this in on your calculator and find out what those reduce down to. And if I move that over ever so slightly, you might be able to see that a little better. So you could just type these in and see by going like 1.25 divided by 2, and you get the 0.625. You can either leave it as the 0.625, or you can turn it into a fraction. It doesn't really matter because this one terminated. If the fraction goes on and on and on, or sorry, the decimal goes on and on, then turn it into a fraction. But for here, it doesn't really matter. Okay? So I would go 0.625 times x, and then when you divide 7.5 by 2, what you're going to end up with is the 3.75. So subtract 3.75. That's going to be the one that I put in as my y1. So when I type this into my calculator, I would just go y equals, clear out any junk that's in there already, and then just type in 0.625 times x minus 3.75. Okay? And if you want, you could already sketch the graph and see what that looks like. We've got that line number 1 that's from our graph there. So now let's do the same thing and find out line 2. So line 2, we know the equation is 2.75x plus 8y equals 32. So I would just go 8y equals negative 2.75 plus 32. Divide everything by 8. Oops, and there should be an x there. And if you do that, you're going to get y equals. And if you want, you can again do this as a fraction. So I can go negative 2.75 divided by 8. And I'll get that. It's kind of an ugly decimal, so I'll turn it into a fraction. Negative 11 over 32. So negative 11 over 32 times x, and then plus 4 there. Okay? To type that in, you would just put that right underneath it. I'd go bracket negative 11 over 32 times x plus 4. And I should have had a bracket there.